meeting to order. Still waiting on Ron, but it's 8:30, so we're in business here. If you want to,
Well, apparently we're waiting on Joe, too. They're probably coming together, I would think.
Ron and Joe.
Oh, Joe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joe was coming.
Oh, okay.
so we will start anyway, and we'll shuffle the agenda around a little bit. And the first thing is introductions. So I'm Chris Christensen.
I'm Jack Balcom.
Bill Wilkes.
Tom Boland.
Michelle Holton.
Paul McCallie.
And the first order of business is the January minutes. And then our second order of business is, I need a pen.
Okay. Well, I gave you my corrections online, and you made the changes, so I'm all set. With the minutes, I don't know about... Oh, I move that we accept the minutes of last month's meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, I guess that's it, 3-0-0. Need a second just to find a pen in the bottom of this.
Yeah, I only brought one this morning. Can't help you there.
Okay, we're going to shuffle the agenda around just a little bit since Ron and Joe are not here yet. And I'm going to ask Paul to speak a little bit about the upcoming warrant, because there are issues on the warrant related to capital reserve funds. And I think we pretty much know what's going on, but always good to have the details. So if you would take the floor, Paul, you're in business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. About a year, last year during the budget time, we were notified by Department of Revenue that our capital reserve fund deposits that we put into our capital reserve funds, our savings accounts, needed to be put on a separate warrant article. Due to law change of RSA 35.5, a law change, it states that each deposit into capital reserve funds needs to be put on a separate warrant article, or they can be clustered together. So this year on the town ballot, we've been doing deposits in capital reserve funds in the operating budget for years. I want to say, I know in my 14 years here with the town, we did it that way, and prior to that, I believe Bob O'Van, his about 23 years with the town, he did it that way. So what we had to do was he had to break them out this year and put them on a separate warrant article. And the general fund, the council voted last night to put the general fund capital reserve deposits, which are our savings accounts of about in the amount of $1,650,000 on a separate warrant article, and I believe the warrant article number is number 4. And also the wastewater treatment fund, which is about $350,000. Is the following warrant article, and I believe that's warrant article 5. This change, once again, is due to a change in the law. We went to talk to DRA about this, and DRA said that we had to do it this way. We couldn't do it no longer the way we used to do it, included in our operating budget. So those two are deposits that the town will be voting on going forward every year, deposits into capital reserve funds. The one difference is that since the town council is agents to expend, we're allowed to put those in our operating budgets because the town council's agents to expend. So our withdrawals from our capital reserve funds will still be in the operating budget as in years past. So the only change, like I said, is depositing money into the capital reserve funds. What that will mean for the trustee of the trust funds is that we will still give you the money by December 1st or December 15th like we have in years past if the warrant article gets passed. If it does not get passed, then there's going to be some math that needs to be done to see if projects can be done if we have enough money. So there'll be more contact with you if the warrant articles don't get passed to see what is enough each fund to make sure we have enough money to do the projects. If we don't have enough money in the fund to do the projects, we won't do the projects. So it's a little tricky on how the timing of it is with this warrant article. But once again, we've been doing this forever. These save us money. This saves us bonding costs. This saves us bonding interest. We do not bond in the town of Merrimack, as many of you know, a lot of money, only multi-million dollar projects. So we were able to do that because of the way we used to do our deposits and still do our deposits into capital reserve funds.
So if you're clustering, pick a number, 12 capital reserve funds, and one vote for all 12, if I'm opposed to a particular capital reserve fund, I don't want to buy a new fire engine or whatever it is, and I vote no, that messes up the whole 12, right?
That is correct. It's a yes or no vote on the total. So every general fund, capital reserve fund, meaning DW highway, road infrastructure, fire truck equipment, highway equipment, traffic preemption, library construction, all those capital reserve funds, liability trust, capital reserve fund, all those are all lumped together as part of the general fund. And if the vote is no, no means, in the state law, no means no. So I liken it to the budget vote. You either vote for the budget or you vote for the default. There's no in between. Same thing with these capital reserve funds. Either you vote to make the deposit or you vote not to make the deposit into capital reserve. One or the other. It's black and white.
Well, except that if you vote against the budget, you automatically get the
The
default
default
budget.
budget, right.
If you vote against the capital reserve
You
funds,
don't get any
we
deposits.
can't rebuild the roads.
Right. You get no deposits into capital reserve funds.
Plus, it also makes the amount look, like a lot of money, instead of each individual project,
Yeah.
where you can decide.
I do, I do want to say that over the last 3 to 4 years, we've been putting in between $1,600,000 and $1,950,000. So this is not a change, even though the amount does look large. This is what we've been putting in for the last couple of years. We didn't increase any of the capital reserve funds this year from last year. So it's consistently what we put in, which we need to buy these pieces of equipment. It's, I believe that by doing it in the operating budget, it smooths the tax rate. You don't get these large spikes for equipment that you have to buy up and down, like EKG. I believe it smooths the tax rate. However, the state believes that the people should have a right to vote on what goes into a capital reserve fund.
So that was my question, I guess. If the money cannot go into a capital reserve fund, it goes back to the taxpayers?
No, if the vote is no, it doesn't get raised by taxes, and your tax rate is that much less.
Right.
So it just, if the vote's no, I don't get to deposit $50,000, say, into Daniel Webster Highway Capital Reserve Fund that year. So we'll be that much further down the road next year, but we're behind.
And you get this.
Yes, you get that.
Let's hope people pay attention.
Well, and just for the folks who may be watching on television, the town has a little over $7 million in, I think, 15, 16 capital reserve funds.
Right.
So they are well spread out and well managed.
And I believe the majority of that is, not the majority, but we have a significant amount of money in the Road Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund, and that is used for these bridge projects that we have done, such as Bedford Road, Wire Road, Wallace Road, Turkey Hill, the culverts we did at Amherst and on DW Highway. All those get funded by having this Road Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund, and to be able to get the 80%, 20%, 80% match from the state on some of these bridge projects, we had to say that we have sufficient money set aside to do these projects.
Right.
And that's why, the road infrastructure and the deposits into the capital, some of these capital reserve funds are very, very important.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, when are they gonna be doing they're gonna widen the Wire Road Bridge over Everett Turnpike, right?
The state is looking at doing that project, I believe it's 2021. We haven't got any firm dates of when construction may begin or if the project is totally approved yet. They're planning on doing, the state is planning on widening the Everett Turnpike from exit 8,
Yep,
basically all the way up to exit
Bedford.
13,
yep.
to make it a
So
three-lane
they
road.
have to do the
both ways.
bridge.
So they
Yep,
have to
they
do-
gotta
have
widen
to
that
do
bridge.
both
That's a
bridges,
narrow
Babuzik
bridge.
Lake Road Bridge, Wire Road Bridge, and there's a bunch of culverts that have water going underneath the Everett Turnpike that are gonna have to be taken care of too, whether they're gonna make bridges or widen culverts and things of that sort. Natticook, I believe it's Natticook Brook that runs underneath there, runs in a box culvert, and they diverted it to a new location. They're looking at diverting it back to the original location to make it come across the Everett Turnpike that way.
I haven't quite figured out that plan yet, in the sense that we widen the road from exit 8 to exit 13,
Yeah.
and then beyond that, but I don't see what's, you're still gonna always have 2 lanes of traffic northbound on 293 alongside the river.
I don't
You
know.
do
what
have a
the
fork
goes
there, so you're losing some of the traffic
Right.
Yeah.
going up.
To 293.
Right.
I don't know what their thinking was going forward through Manchester, but
Right.
it will alleviate a lot of the traffic up to the toll booth and down, because I guess one of the big congestions is south after exit 13 coming down. There's a large backup, so they're thinking
Yep.
if they can
It's
make
terrible
that,
in the
make it
morning.
easier for the people to get to their commuting locations.
You know, the
south of-
southbound traffic in the morning is bumper to bumper
Prohibited, yeah.
from about that point, yeah.
Yeah, from the tolls all the way down to the state line, where then it expands again to 3 lanes.
That's the second phase, I believe.
When
The
you
first,
think about it, you got 3 different major thoroughfares feeding into that. I mean, you've got 293, you've got the airport bypass, and then you've got just the traffic coming through Manchester,
Down,
so.
so. But that is, that project is state money, it doesn't affect,
that's really the basis of my question, I guess.
yeah, it's all state money. We don't, excuse me, the Babuzik Lake Road and the Wire Road bridges are on the state. They're handling that, whatever funding mechanisms they do. We do not have to put any money out.
It's all
However,
turnpike money, it's paid for from
Right.
tolls.
however, we do have one bridge.
So we pay for it.
We'll have one bridge left. We're doing Bedford. We actually went out to bid for Bedford Road Bridge. So next year, you'll see us requesting money for that project. And we have one bridge left, major bridge left, and that's the Route 3 bridge right by Piningburg. And I believe that's scheduled for
Okay.
same time they're doing the toll booth, Everett Turnpike, 2021, in the state project, so.
Well, that's all part of the you know, we're talking about sidewalks and so forth.
That's all tying in right there, Wire Road intersection, the bridge, all that is all gonna tie in together.
Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, there's a
Yeah,
printing on the fund reports. This is for you, Paul.
Okay.
We seem, as they made the state reports easier to read in terms of the information provided, they added columns to the spreadsheets. So this is great. If you're online, you can just slide back and forth, whatever columns you want to read. But in order to print it on an 8.5 by 11 page for the town report, you either make it in a font that's so small nobody can read it, or you have to modify the report. And I did check with the state, and they said, well, you know, you have to report in the annual report, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the full MS9 or MS10. It just says the trustees report to the town. So we can change those columns or hide some that we don't necessarily need for general purposes. I was just wondering if you'd had a chance, or if Becky and Kristen had a chance to take a look at that, if you needed anything from us.
We did, actually, we do have the columns, and we looked over it. We looked over the report that was presented. And there were, like you said, some columns that were duplicated columns. So we looked at hiding those from printing. It still basically gives you everything that the MS9, MS10 states, capital reserve funds, all your investments in the stock market and other mutual funds and things of that sort. So it lists all those individually. It lists still A, B, C, D of your MS10 and your MS9. It gives you a total. I believe what we might have taken out, and I don't know for sure, but I think we've presented on the cash basis and not on the investment basis at end of the year, what is, the market value, because I believe those were a couple columns that were added towards the end of the report. So I think we went to the cash basis, what the cash basis value was of the investment, and then I think we removed the market value. If you rather have the market value, we can remove the cash basis. It's up to how you guys want to present in the town report which one you want, but it seemed kind of repetitive because when you start talking about the investment basis, it repeated most of the columns that were already there and then had an adjustment for market value. So,
Right, and there were a couple of other columns. One that didn't make any sense to me. Capital gains dividends. Capital gains distributions, I understand.
right.
I'm not ever familiar with capital gains dividends, and it's nothing that we would ever use. At least, I can't imagine us using it. And then the titles are duplicative in terms of, it says highway fund, and then on the next column is purpose. Seems pretty evident to me that the highway fund is for highways. Just, anyway, we'll work around it, and if you need anything from us,
Right.
sing out.
If you would like, I know Kristen has worked on the MS9 and MS10. We could send out what we thought would be presented in the book, in the town report. You guys could review it, see if you like it. If you want to make changes, let us know. But I believe we have all the data that is needed. We pulled a book probably 5-6 years ago and tried to follow the bouncing ball to make sure that if you're looking at it, you can follow it all the way through. So if you were doing a project from 2000 to 2018, you could basically follow this fund all the way through to the end. So that's what we were looking at when we presenting. I can have Kristen send you what she is planning on inserting into the book, and you guys can say yay or nay, or if you want changes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to her if we need.
Readability is our biggest concern.
Right, and that's what we tried, because I think with everything there, it was like not even an 8 font. I think it was like a 7.5 font. So we're trying to bring it back up to, people that don't need, zoom lenses to read the report, or a magnifying glass.
I had people from Cambridge Trust send us a couple of reports or indications of where to find them for other towns that they manage, so they're all doing the same thing, and what goes into their town report. One of them was a 6-point font, almost impossible to read even with a magnifying glass. And one of them, Belmont, I think it was, or Walpole, just kind of dropped stuff out and gave a condensation, and one of them gave just a very generic text type report and some totals. And of course, that they had fewer funds than we have. As you mentioned earlier, we have a better or more active use of these funds than most towns. So there is some flexibility there. Okay, I guess we're still skipping around. Pretty sure they're coming, huh?
Ron is on his way.
Okay. Well, let's see, we had a question from Tom Gibson about increasing the Tim Gibson scholarship from, it was 3,000, last year we increased it to 3,500, and he wanted to know if we could increase it to 4,000. And we have sufficient funds to do that now. I think we've got about $12,000 in the income side that's expendable. But if we go to 4,000, you know, the original goal he had was either two $3,000 scholarships or 6,000. And I guess the question is, how do you feel about that in terms of sustainability? If we're making just about $4,000 in income now. If we spend it all, then we're not building up anything for a year when we're not going to make that 4,000. But
Where do we
we're
sta-
sustainable for about 3 more years.
Where do we stand on getting additional contributions to it?
He periodically gives some. Last year, I think 3,500 or 4,000. I don't remember the exact number.
So, I mean, that's gonna help increase the ability to generate a little more income, if we can.
Well, a little more,
Ex-
but like any endowment, if you put $5,000 in, and that earns, say, 150, at a modest 3%, then that gets you a little bit, but the ratio is difficult when you want to take everything out of that, and from a sustainability point of view.
What about, well, it's his son's fund.
Yep.
And he basically did all the fundraising and everything. As long as you let him know what the point is where the fund remains self-sustaining, it could be 3,700.
Yeah. Maybe
We should give him that number and tell him, hey, Tom, you know, this is rather than 3,500 or 4,000, there's a number here that would still keep you self-sustaining based on the principle that's already in there and a modest 3% projection. And let him decide. I don't think it's my place to set a goal for him. If he wants to give out more of the money, that's really his prerogative, because I still look upon it as not our fund, but his fund.
Sure. All right, so is that a motion to say we can increase the scholarship up to 4,000? Not to exceed 4,000?
Well, I think if I heard I think Jack's just saying, hey, you know, it could be 4,000 this year, but, you know, it might have to come back down again in order to
Okay, well,
sustain it.
we're at a point in time where we need to let the school know, because they're making up the awards programs and applications and so forth. So I'd rather have something firm that I can take instead of putting it off till next month.
How about an up to
Okay,
4,000?
okay.
I would motion that we will approve up to 4,000,
I second.
but also would like to notify, you know, Mr. Gibson that it could be subject to going back down, depending on the ability to earn off the principal.
Okay, I will do that. 300?
Yep.
Okay. Ron, welcome aboard. Is it Ron?
Yes, Ron.
Yes.
Good to see you.
All right, we're gonna go back to the head of the agenda. And you have a flyer here, Ron, about MVD capital reserve funds. Also good, just for comparison's sake, a listing of the town and the state, just their gross totals of capital reserve funds. The school doesn't use capital reserve funds very much, but you do and we do, or the town does and the village district does. And what we're looking at here is, right now, capital reserve funds have to be invested under state law and under our investment policy in a series of guaranteed funding, U.S. government securities, FDIC insured type stuff. And what we've been doing is CDs, because for the last several years, you really couldn't get much interest out of treasuries. So we had CDs and laddered them, and so we're looking every 6 months at the ladder and wondering if we should be stretching the ladder out. We're getting a little bit more interest now. We're getting more interest on treasuries, which have no penalty if they're marketable. So we get better interest out of those now than we did a year or two ago. And so we're moving in that direction. But we do want to get a feeling for what kind of cash flow the village district is going to need over the next 6 months, over the next year. And I think the public all has an idea that this project's going on, or proposed projects. We know about wells 4 and 5. So I wonder if you want to comment on that at all. And then I put some questions down here about the project at 4 and 5. I don't know if you want to go there first, or just if there's other things going on we're going to need money for in the next 6 months or 12 months?
We do, yes. We'll be working on an artificial recharge feasibility study. Main line extension that we're gonna.
Is your microphone on, by the way?
It is. We have a, the main line extension that we're working on is gonna be, really, it's an extension of the Saint-Gobain project, the main that they're extending through town for their situation. We felt it was a opportunity to further, put some water main in the ground for some residents in that area. We're looking at an emergency booster pump. That may be down the road a little ways. It's a little bit more expensive than we had thought.
We have a state loan for that, though, right? Yeah,
No, that's
that's the wrong pump.
we do. For the booster pump,
Yeah.
the Turkey Hill booster pump, we are replacing. This would be if that was to go down. So there's two pumps in the current Turkey Hill pit. We have two pumps, one for redundancy. The new station would have the same. This is just in case both of those go down, or we have a break somewhere else in the system. We'd be able to hook from a hydrant to a hydrant to boost the pressure in that system.
Okay, let me back up a little bit. The Turkey Hill booster pump we voted on last year, is that right?
Correct,
And
yes.
that's going to be bonded,
Yes,
so no impact on capital reserve funds.
none for that, you're right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then the main line extension, what year is that going to be?
That'll be this spring.
And how much is that gonna be, roughly? I mean, what's the price of that?
267,000.
Okay, and which, is that coming out of capital reserve?
Yeah, yes, this system development.
All right, so you'd probably need money for that when you say this spring. Are we looking at March or July?
For that amount, we have leeway as far as our cash position to be able to see the project through and then ask for refund at the end of the project. If it's starting April to May, they said it would be about a month, but it's construction, so if it starts in May, end of May, it might not wrap up until July. But either way, we have the ability to pay out the project and then ask for reimbursement, so it would be after July.
Okay, well, and what we've done in the past, I think is front a partial amount, let's say $200,000, and then settle up the rest so we have an exact number. And under the law, we have to have an invoice. So you'd have to invoice us. But we also have to have the backup information, because what can happen, this is partially for TV audience, if you said, well, I think it's gonna be 267,000, and we gave you the 267, and then it turns out to be 257, there isn't a good mechanism for you to give back that 10,000. And if it just goes into your general fund, then that's contrary to what the capital reserve fund warrant article said. So we always have to be a little bit after the fact.
Right.
But that's good. Okay, May, June timeframe on that. And then the other second booster, emergency booster pump? What's the timeline on that?
We're not really sure. I mean, that's, we're looking, it's about 100,000, and I'm still kind of evaluating that as well. There's some other things, like Mitchell Woods, that's a continuing project, in that would be on a high service, so that could possibly be the redundancy that we're looking at when that comes online. So it's there. It's something that we're still kind of evaluating if the need is there.
So for us, from a standpoint of investing the funds,
We're not, yeah,
I mean, is this end of the year, or is this, I mean, is this gonna happen this year, or calendar year? or-
probably not, no,
Okay.
no.
All right. So I'm a little unclear on the, we have three funds. Land acquisition, it's pretty obvious, buy land. But the system development versus
Equipment.
equipment and facility. Can
So-
you give us a
Sure.
little bit differentiation there?
Excuse me.
What system development is versus equipment and
So-
facility? Because to me, a booster pump is equipment, not necessarily system development.
Right. So that would be, SDC is basically, it's an equity buy-in that all new customers pay to bring themselves up equal into the system. So the SDC would be used on, if there was a need to expand the system, to improve on the system because of added customers. So the equipment facilities would be used for existing, like if there was an existing issue, like the booster pump would be solving the existing problem possibly, so that would fall into there. Or if there was a major break, loss of well, something like that, we would use equipment and facilities. SCC would be just a expansion of the system.
Okay, expansion, all right. Now, I also put some numbers down here because I had a confusion factor on this, on the well 4 and 5 project. There's a $405,000 grant that was approved by the Safe Drinking and Groundwater Trust Advisory Commission. And when I went back and looked at that, someplace I had in my mind, and maybe there was an error in the spreadsheet, there was a lot of projects that went through that committee all at once. The commission approved $405,000 in a grant for that particular project. Now, they listed the project, it's on your sheet there, as $4,160,000. And then $3,755,000 coming from what they refer to as a responsible party,
Right.
leaving the $405,000 grant. But I was under the impression at the time that there was also going to be $405,000 as a matching amount coming out of capital reserves, which means someplace along the line, either I misunderstood that or the total project number is not 4,160, but 4,005,000. Can you clarify for me what what the total project is, or is there a plan to take money out of capital reserves to supplement that, or?
There is a plan. That was the, so it's a matching grant. So I'd have to go back and do the math as far as that goes, with where the numbers fall, but yeah, there was outside funding is what Saint-Gobain, we negotiated in the settlement, and that is basically just for
4 and 5.
4 and 5, just basically to the filter and getting us up and running. There was a shortfall of the 810,000 that we were responsible for. That's improvements and over and above the treatment for 4 and 5 that we felt we needed. And the grant came into play with the matching grant, the 405, so that's what we would be requesting out of capital reserves is the 405. Our portion
So
of.
the spreadsheet that I was looking at from last fall listed 4,160,000, and it should really be closer to 4,500,000. Is that correct?
I'd have to go back and look at the numbers.
Okay.
It's either coming out of the outside funding, or if that number would probably be bumped up to.
Okay, so then the follow-on question to that is, what's the timeline that you'd need the 405? I'm guessing that's gonna come out of equipment and facilities. Is that correct?
Wouldn't it come out of system development? I mean,
Well, it's existing, so it's an improvement on the existing well, so I would say capital, equipment and facilities, yes.
Yeah, because there isn't enough money in the other one to
Right.
do it there.
It's a new
So
facility.
that would come out of equipment and facilities. And what's the timeline on that?
I spoke with
Year, right?
the engineering firm that's gonna be handling the project yesterday, and they don't anticipate needing to start to draw on that until January 2020. And that will be actually, as the project wraps up, it'll be a month-by-month drawdown for what is needed.
Okay.
So they'll do a billing to us, and then we'll submit that to you.
Yeah, because my understanding is that DES tracks these things in terms of the grants, and their concern was, whether it's this project or someplace, anyplace else in the state, that if it's supposed to be a matching grant, they want to make sure there's actually matching going on, and that you don't spend all the grant first and then say, oh, we only have to spend $10,000 out of our pocket. They really want it to be a match, so, you know, that'll come up from their perspective when we get further along in construction. The other question that came up in the Safe Drinking Groundwater Commission was, is there a plan to do anything for wells 7 and 8?
That's where if it does pass. When will the design phase? That's coming out of CRF.
So we do have a couple petition warrant articles on our ballot this year for treatment for 7 and 8, and, well, all wells. So it'd be 2 and 3, 7 and 8. I don't expect the design phase to be really, they've done a lot of the numbers projection and all of that, and some basic design to get some numbers together. 16 months possibly for design.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lead time.
I think what we need to do is maybe follow up several months from now.
Right.
If it's a year or more out, that's okay. But again, we'll need to have some planning and timeline type stuff, maybe by this summer or early fall. Once the,
Well, we'll know at the end, at their annual meeting, they'll know if some of these projects pass.
right.
Okay,
But that doesn't necessarily give us the timeline for when the money's gonna be
Right.
needed. It's closer, but like you say, it could be a year out or 16 months or something like that. So I think we'll want to follow up on that. As I mentioned earlier, we get together with the bank to predict or at least plan every 6 months. So if we have something more in June, that would be helpful.
So it seems like, from everything you've said, you probably need like roughly 275,000 between now and the end of the year? Like,
No, it'd be a bit more than that.
267.
We've got the two.
I know, I just rounded it off.
Okay.
Actually, there's one other item. We purchased a backhoe for almost 99,000. We've already purchased that. So we will be submitting for reimbursement on that. I was waiting on the artificial recharge at our 225 board meeting. The engineer is going to be telling us the estimated end date of that project. So that will be another 75,000. So the 99 is already spent, and we'll be asking for reimbursement for that. I was gonna do it in conjunction with the artificial recharge, and I'll know that date come 225. The mainline extension, that 267, as I said, the earliest we need it is July. From there, the emergency booster pump,
He
if
said-
we're reevaluating probably in a year, if we're even gonna purchase that. And that would be about 110,000, I think, were the estimates that we had. And then the wells 4 and 5, as I said, that wouldn't be until starting 2020. If treatment for all does pass, would design phase begin actually this summer?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to go to the board and the board would vote on it, but I believe, yes, that would be the intent, would to start on design right off, and
And design is being drawn from CRF.
that was the intent, yeah.
Okay, so we can look at what those numbers have potential to be, and it'll be contingent on how the vote goes. So I can recap all of this in an email to you today.
Okay.
And I'll get the details as far as the estimates there. And then, as I said, the 405 that won't start drawing until next January, that will be a month-by-month bill. Our engineering firm will be billing us, we'll be paying 50% and submitting to draw down on the grant on the 405, is how we have it set up to work.
Okay.
I mean, the more information you can give us, it just helps us maximize the return on your money, so.
Definitely.
I mean, otherwise, we have to be ultra-conservative, and we keep a lot of it in, we keep a cash balance that we can't earn hardly anything on, so. By giving us this,
$500,000 budget.
Yeah. Which
That sounds about
coincidentally
right.
is the amount we're keeping in cash right now.
So about every 6 months, you'd like sort of a refresh?
yeah, if
on
you
where
could
we
give
are?
us like a 6-month
That'd be
look
helpful.
up,
Okay.
that'd be good.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of projects in the works, so to speak, that may or may not be an immediate timeline, but it helps us.
I mean, we typically invest, like, probably shortest term is 3 months, but, we can keep more cash if we need to, but if we can go out further, 6 or 9 or months or even a year, we can get you a higher return on the money, so.
Sure. So project out, probably, the year would be more solid, and we can even go out a year beyond that with just some
I mean,
rough estimates on where some projects may fall.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll know a lot more after the March meeting, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay. You guys have anything you want from us?
Can you just recap how the Cambridge Trust fees are calculated?
It's paid out of income, it's 25 basis points on the amount under management.
Okay,
which is very low
yes.
for that type of thing.
and they do all of, well, not all, but most of the reporting and tracking. You get the monthly statements anyway. So they're doing a lot of that stuff for us. When we finally signed on with them, we used to be with Merrill Lynch, and they, Bank of America, when they took over Merrill Lynch, said they didn't want to do municipalities anymore. So we interviewed and got proposals from a dozen different financial institutions. And, you know, there was one of them that said, oh yeah, we can do the reports, that'll be an extra $4,000. You know, just everything all over the place. But Cambridge Trust is rolling it all into the one fee. They're doing many towns now that they went after that group of business. And so they've set up a department or a division to handle it, and it's all, I think, well coordinated. So they're able to do a lot more for a lot less fee. Okay, anything else? All right, well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Let's kind of,
Good to see you.
Good seeing you guys.
see what else we can.
What's the date of the annual meeting?
26?
26th of March?
Last Tuesday of the month, of March. It is
All
26th.
right.
You're excited for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not running for anything.
Okay, next item I see here is just discussion of, we're supposed to meet with the town council on February 28th.
Okay, I'll be out of country.
Okay. And didn't know, do you have anything that you want to bring up on that, Paul?
No, I think some of the questions would be, you know, how are the funds doing? You know, what kind of return are we getting on our money? Things of that sort would be very interesting to the town council to bring forward. And just overall, you know, about 15 minutes of, you know, everything. The other thing.
Thank you very much.
Could be a little bit, is the abridged education version of what a trustee of trust fund does, and the importance of the role, because we do have a couple of new counselors and the public. Because you start talking about trustee of trust funds, what does that mean, this, that, the other thing, so. You know, and then maybe one last thing is a total funds under review that you guys actually look at, combining the school, town, MVD, and the, I know we have some last rest cemetery money, so all of those things combined. So,
Yep, scholarships,
scholarships,
individual trusts.
right, you got all that stuff, which, you know, I think would be good for the people to understand what you actually do, and this is your opportunity to do it. Around 15 minutes to a half an hour, but closer to 15 minutes would be,
Yeah, I think 15 minutes is.
would, you know,
Good luck, guys.
so.
You're gonna owe us, Jack.
Yeah, I know. Well, I went last time, don't forget.
Yeah, so did we. Next time you're going by yourself.
It's okay.
Did we do a PowerPoint, or did we have we had a little summary sheets, a couple of summary sheets, didn't we?
We did, but it didn't get onto,
Yeah, they didn't put it up on the screen.
didn't go up on the screen, I don't think.
So, yeah, if you do have something like that, I would suggest that night of the meeting, you bring a USB, and Justin, I know he's watching very diligently right now, would be more than happy, him and Chris would be more than happy to get it up on the screen for you guys. If you can get your information into town manager's office the Friday before the meeting, which should be next Friday.
Yep.
If you could get that, this way it could be also put into packets of the town councilors, so they can actually review. And then if they had questions, they can, you know.
So maybe Judy could do a little summary, like, I think they did a summary last year that was kind of concise, and it wasn't, you know, eye chart spreadsheets that you can't read or anything like that.
I'll work with her if we need any additional stuff, but shouldn't be too tough.
It definitely funds on the management, because it's an eye-popping number, just looking at what's here, you know, you're looking at,
17 million.
yeah. Just in I'm just talking about with the town, the school, and MVD's capital reserve funds alone is
10 million.
10 million or so. So it's an eye-popping number when you think of it as a whole of everything that you guys have to keep in.
Well, the eye popper for me is the town has 7 million, roughly, on a $35 million budget. The MVD has about 4 million, 4.5 million on a $4.5 million budget. And then the school district has 600,000 on a $75 million budget. They just don't use capital reserve funds. It's all out of pocket. So.
If, I know we're talking about town council, but talking about planning, if you don't mind, if I could just ad-lib a little bit here for you. We're probably gonna be looking at about 1.3 to 1.5 million dollars again this year. In June, we'll come to you, second week in June, for request. And that'll be spread out through a couple of different capital reserve funds. Highway equipment, some fire equipment, road infrastructure, wastewater. Usually the 5 or 6 that we usually come in year after year, so. But about 1.2 to 1.5 in needs that we've spent. All depends if this bridge project, how fast they get going on this bridge project up at Bedford Road once they get awarded.
Mhm.
Could be more, could be less, but we'll keep you in the loop on that.
Okay. Well, as I say, when we move into treasuries, we're a little bit more flexible because there's a penalty if you cancel a
CD.
CD early.
Treasuries are marketable.
Treasuries are marketable, so.
Right. And we'll work with you, as we get closer to, your May meeting. We'll definitely give you some, April, if we can, April. I think that's almost 9 months of our year, right? A little more than 9 months, so Tom could send in a report of where we actually stand with, what we need, so you understand what you might have to do or not do.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Let's see what else we have on here. Okay, we talked about that.
Watkins.
This is in this morning's mail. This is the bill or the invoice for the spelling contest.
Okay.
We've already approved that, so we'll just pay it.
It was a very nice contest.
Did you learn anything?
I didn't learn anything, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I learned that I could have, well, no. I learned I could have won this contest if I was that age.
Well, there were a couple of words there that I'd never heard of, and I'm sitting next to the principal, and he'd never heard them, so.
You don't have to hear of them, you just have to spell them.
Anyway,
If you know the origin, you know how it's,
yeah, because that was one of my
yeah,
discussion questions
yeah.
with him. They don't do any Latin in 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, Latin's too easy, I think.
Okay.
They
We
did say,
don't have anything on the speaking contest yet. I think they'd like to do it, but they're not, it's not built into the curriculum, if you will.
well, they've got somebody now who's gonna push for it, so there's more probability that it'll come to fruition.
Was that correspondence about it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hopeful.
Okay, did I miss anything?
Okay, on March 15th, I've got a conflict for scheduling.
Yeah, I made a note on mine to see if we should go to the 22nd.
That'd be great if we could. I think that would be clear.
Okay.
Is that the first day of March Madness, the 15th?
I don't know.
Friday?
Oh, we can bring a TV monitor.
We gotta be done by,
First weekend.
yeah, that's the best
The
weekend.
22nd's wide open for
Okay.
me.
I'm good with the 22nd.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
I think that is it. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Hey, I can take you home if you need a ride.
Thank you.
Hey, are we,